Redditors who went out for cigarettes and never came back. Why did you leave? Where did you go? What is life like for you now? Serious. I was living with a very mean and controlling girlfriend. If it wasn't her way or all about her, she threw a fit. One day I had enough and said I was going to the store and just kept driving. I literally drove for 12 hours and showed up at a friend's house 5 states away and asked if I could crash on his couch. I called my boss and said I wanted to quit work. He was pretty cool about it. He knew my girlfriend and actually set me up with a job in my new city. I have never spoken to my ex since. Soon after my relocation I met my now wife and I could not be in a better relationship. Best thing I ever did. I was living with my parents. I was 17. They told me to leave, then tried to stop me from leaving. I have been in an abusive relationship with my mom and my stepdad for years. Friends helped me load the car. That was 12 years ago. Never been back. I left my home like this. One night, I just packed the essentials into my backpack, walked to a train station and got on a train to Newport News, VA from Pasco, WA. No one knew I was gone until 3 o'clock the next morning. It was to be with a girl my family was totally 100% against. That was a year ago. It's all working perfectly. I am happier now than I ever have been before. Sort of. My cousin went for a walk once. He was dating this woman, who just an awful human being. She got pregnant, swore it was his, and once the kid was born the state went after him for child support, as he wasn't on the birth certificate, even though they were living together. Anyways, the paternity test came back showing it wasn't his, and she flipped her lid. Just lost it. He asked her to calm down and said he wanted to take a walk to cool off. He left everything he owned, minus the clothes on his back and his wallet, and went for a walk that he never came from. A few years back the kid found him. He was 16 or 17. And went on some giant rant about him being a bum and a punkus and whatever other nonsense. My cousin told him he wasn't his dad. The paternity test showed that. And he had no idea why she told him he was the father and abandoned them. Kid left a whole hell of a lot more confused than he showed up, I think. Edit calm not qualm. I left my abusive husband 7 years ago. I just walked out the door. I never spoke to him again. I had squirreled away money for years because he controlled my income. He had this idea that I was miserable because we didn't have children. So he tried to change that by raping me so I would get pregnant. He didn't know I was using birth control. I had resigned my job, so I just left. I couldn't bring children into that life. I went to live with my parents in a different part of the country. Now I live in a different country. I have a kind and loving partner, and we have a daughter. I'm happy most of the time. My family don't tell people where I live, in case he should find out. I don't know what happened to him. I hope he's dead. Edited to say, thanks for the gold. I wasn't expecting that at all. Said I was going to uni. My sister dropped me off at the station. Said my goodbye and left the country. Parents and sisters were abusive and manipulative. Lived in fear for many years since they threatened to shoot me if they found me. I struggled a lot with alcohol for years and self-hurt, but I'm happily married and don't think of them as family at all. Left my family close to 5 years ago to move to California to start a new life. I was 400 pounds. Living a lifestyle of prescription drugs and drinking at 17 with my family. I was good in high school and even went to college early, but wasn't able to secure a loan there to continue past the first year. Dropped my sheet life there and came here. It was very rough for a time, but I'm a lot better now. I had some help from my adoptive father but paid my way aside from the ticket here. I live on my own now and manage an office selling printer parts and various other money makers online. I started my own business last year and have been paying out of pocket to continue school here because the college I went to back home wouldn't release my transcript. I've lost a great deal of weight and am away from any unhealthy addictions. My family is for the most part very cross with me. My mother died 2 years ago nearly exactly. I had planned to go back for her birthday, tomorrow incidentally, in 2013, but she died 2 weeks prior to it. The only regret I have is leaving that door open. I like to think she'd be proud of where I went. Left home shortly before high school graduation. Awful living situation. My parent was in town and told me to go home while she stayed in town. I went home and packed my stuff and left. Returned the car with a note and no one even bothered to call or text me for a week. I was left. My dad and my mom had a fight. My dad left, then he killed himself. On one hand, I have no memories of him, I was too young. And I am very sympathetic to mental illness and suicidal ideation. I have had bouts of serious depression in my life. On the other hand, his absence, the lack of dad, left a huge gaping hole in my life. The strangest part is when I turned the age he was when he killed himself. I'm 36. And I'm older than my dad ever was. And I still feel young. Like I have many years ahead of me. I wish I had had the opportunity to know him. Everything I know about him is someone else's memory. Thanks for giving me space to share this. My mother left me at her door. I would visit every Saturday for a few hours. Then she wasn't there. After 10+ years of extreme hate towards her, my uncle enlightened me. He said maybe she left you for the better. Turns out she has extreme mental issues. Drug abuse. It's amazing how few words can change your life. I have never left. But my brother has. One morning, 2 years ago, I woke up with a killer hangover. Rolled over in bed. Checked my phone and saw several missed calls and a couple of voicemails from my mother and sister. Along with a text message from my dad. Call me. The first voicemail was from my sister. Sobbing through the phone. She said, for the sake of the story, let's call my brother Tom. Tom just tried to commit suicide. He wrote us all letter and just call me please. Whoa. This can't be real. Then my mom's voicemail. Tom attempted suicide last night. We haven't been able to reach him. But we suspect he might be heading your way. If you see him, call the police. We need to make sure he is safe. Oh shit. This is definitely real. We all somewhat suspected depression from him, but this was unexpected. Anyways, I got out of bed and put some clothes on. I open the blinds and I peek out the window. As if on cue. Tom shitty old 96 4-door. He was flustered. Barely spoke to me but told me he was leaving for California. Refusing to turn him into the police. I bought him lunch. Filled up his gas tank and then I gave him all of the $26 I had on me and wished him the best of luck. He was back home within 2 weeks. Remorseful and embarrassed. I'm glad he's back. Went for a week's holiday in Ireland. Accidentally left the week before the one I had booked off of work due to a mix-up in my brain. After a few days of drunkenness I sent this postcard to work saying having a great time. Not coming back. That was in 2001. Been back to visit intermittently. And my parents' family were cool with it. Ireland is home now. Though I have traveled a bit and lived in a few other countries briefly in the last 6 years. I have never regretted making the move. It was the best thing I ever did. Even back then in the vodka haze it just felt like the right decision. I left my kids with my husband after quitting my job. He was sapping me of everything I could ever have emotionally and was neglectful to me as a wife. It was either leave or heal myself. I am now going through a divorce and I am getting my life together. My kids and I have a better relationship than ever because I am emotionally fit to care for them. I am now the mother they deserve. I was 27 living with my very religious parents. I was miserable there and my boyfriend of 1 year invited me to come live with him. I packed up my stuff one day, wrote a note and left with him. My parents did not approve of intimate relationships outside of marriage. They would beat me up and probably him too if we would have told them ahead of time. I don't regret it all and it was the best decision I ever made. I ran away from my family. My mom. And whatever family is attached to. I feel so much better. I resented the bullshit my mom would pull on me. She once got me pretty screwed around and told everyone I was abusing her. Her finances etc. She told me to my face she was going to lie and get away with it. And she did. And that was pretty much the family dynamic I was caught up in. When I called her an abuser she couldn't handle it. It felt good to leave and not look back. I got a new job. And a new place and changed numbers. I kinda did this. Woke up knowing how much of a mistake going to art school in San Francisco was. Called a friend who came to the city later that day and helped me pack my sheet and left. I moved in with a different friend. Got a job the next day. And went from there. I told my roommate when they called a few days later, I was in school housing. So I didn't big dig them over. And a friend from work the day I left when she called wanting to get some dinner. Never regretted it. Because eventually it led to my spouse and kids. Edit no. Guys. This is not from him. I am realizing I should have sued the shit out of the writers for stealing my story. Though. I know of 3. All with some serious mental illness. First one left family. Was an army vet. Went down in a plane crash or something in the military. Ex-alcoholic. Was gone for almost 9 years before they found some trace of him in a halfway house. Second guy had mental illness, heavy drug and alcohol illness. Parents sent him to the Navy. One day he was gone. No word. 45 days later he reappeared. Spent time in Navy jail, not sure how it works, for drug use. Dishonorably discharged. Last guy I knew was in school. Everything seemingly fine. Then gone for 2 years. Comes back. Said he was in witness protection. Turns out he was in jail for almost killing somebody. I don't know if this counts. But when I was about 19 I was in a shitty position. All of my friends were doing meth regularly. I had put out thousands of dollars to bail friends from jail and to try to help them out. The girl I was dating was lying to everyone she knew about our relationship. My uncle called me in the middle of all this and offered me a job on the other side of the country. I had my car packed and was headed there within 12 hours. I heard from the girl I was dating about 2 weeks later. She called crying telling me she went to my house and I wasn't there and wanted to know where I was. I told her I had moved and she told me it wasn't my choice to make. That I should have consulted her. I never heard from any of the people I had considered friends. I heard some of them went to jail. Some had kids. Some disappeared. I moved back to the town I left about 5 years later and everything has been relatively okay since then. Sometimes I see people I used to know. And sometimes they recognize me. But mostly I keep to myself and spend time with better people than those I left years ago. I was 21. On my 3rd year of college. Getting drunk and high on pills every single night. Puking every single morning. Ducking guy after random guy. Had just had an abortion. 98 pounds and barely scraping by in my classes. One day I woke up and felt so unbelievably sick, tired of the way I was living I considered ending my life. Instead of killing myself. I packed up as much as I could fit in my car while my housemates were in classwork and moved to North Carolina to live by the beach. I called my parents and told them what I was doing. Which broke their hearts. Which broke my heart. I still come home for some holidays. I stayed in a cheap, disgusting motel for 2 months before I saved enough at my waitress job to get an apartment 40 minutes from the beach. I'm currently married to a wonderful man. Completely sober. Finished my degree and have a baby due in December. I can truly say I'm happy. I was sort of the left behind. A friend left for smokes and never came back, leaving her 4-year-old with me. I wasn't ready to be a mom by any stretch of the imagination, but by the time we located the family and they said they didn't want the little guy, I couldn't imagine my life without him. It's been a struggle, but we are 10 years in and he has changed my life in unimaginable ways. Her loss is all I think when I see his smiling face every day. I don't know where she is. I never heard from her again other than when she dropped some of his clothes off through a mutual friend. I'm glad she had never come back because I don't know what I would do. I think it would break my heart if he wanted to be with her.